Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My brother inherited the family company, then fired me in front of everyone, calling me dead weight. Days later, I opened the envelope Dad left only for me. What I found inside didn't just expose him, it took down our whole family name. Hey Reddit, my family always acted like I was the backup plan they never wanted. Then my dad died, and everything went off the rails fast. Before the chaos hit, here's how it all really started. My name's Jonathan. I'm 30. I run operations at my family's company, or I did until everything went sideways. The business was my dad's creation. Micah built it from nothing. One truck, one contract, one stubborn streak the size of the whole county. Over the years, it turned into a local heavyweight. Not flashy, but real money, steady clients, long-term agreements, the kind of place where reputation mattered more than any billboard or website. I handled the part nobody saw. Logistics, scheduling, supply flow, field problems, vendor messes, anything that kept the place from catching fire. Every time someone screwed something up, I was the one who quietly fixed it before clients noticed. My brother Damien did the opposite. He was the face. Sales, charm, big handshakes, loud laughs. He could sell water to a drowning man and convince him he was getting a discount. Never mind that half of his big wins were me and a few sleepless nights holding everything together in the background. Camilla, our mother, acted like the business itself was a family heirloom that she personally polished every morning. She loved reminding people that her eldest son was the future of the company. She'd say it like she was announcing royalty. If she noticed how much damage Damien left behind, she ignored it. Easier that way. Dad knew. He always knew. He just pretended he didn't. If I brought up a missing invoice or a client complaining about a promise Damien couldn't keep, he'd just sigh and tell me to let things settle. That was his favorite line. Like corruption was dust that just drifted away if you waited long enough. Most days I kept my head down and ran things because someone had to. But that week everything felt off. Numbers were tighter than they should have been. A few vendors were claiming late payments we never logged. Small things, but small things add up when the company's been spotless for years. Then, late one evening, after everyone else had left, I checked the system for a contract we had with a long-term client. Big account, good money, usually stable, gone, not archived, not moved, deleted. The name didn't show up anywhere. No billing records. No payment history. It was like the contract never existed. I didn't panic. I just checked our backups. Nothing. I went through email confirmations. All wiped. My personal drive only got the weekly archive every Friday night. This contract had been signed mid-week, fresh enough that it lived only on the server. That's why the empty space where it should have been made my stomach tightened. Evan, the senior accountant, passed by my office on his way out. Evan's been with us since before I could drive. Sharp guy, quiet, not dramatic about anything. I asked him if he'd seen the contract. He froze, not a long freeze, just a moment too still, and then pulled the door shut behind him. I shouldn't say anything, he whispered. Damien told me to delete it. I'd heard a lot of ridiculous things in my life, but that one still landed weird. Not shocking, just confirming what I already suspected. Evan's eyes had this mix of fear and regret, like he already knew he'd crossed a line. He didn't wait for me to respond. He just said, "I'm sorry," and walked out. I didn't chase him. I sat down, opened a blank folder, and documented everything. Timestamps, missing files, the exact path where the contract should have been. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's keeping records. Damien counted on people forgetting things. I didn't forget. I backed up the details to an external drive I kept in my house. I'd been doing that for years, more out of habit than fear. But that night it felt different, more deliberate. I was going to take it to Micah in the morning, after the early meeting he never missed. The next morning, Dad was supposed to come in early for a meeting. He never showed. By noon, we got the call. Heart, fast, no warning. You'd think losing your father would hit you with some big emotional wave, but mine came in pieces. A headache, a tight jaw, a feeling like I'd been holding something heavy for too many years, and someone suddenly replaced it with something even heavier. Damien acted devastated in public, chest clutching, pacing, dramatic breaths. Camilla hovered around him like a stage assistant. Meanwhile, I handled the paperwork, the calls, the arrangements. People kept patting me on the shoulder, saying things like, "You're the strong one," as if strength was the reward for being ignored your whole life. But even in the middle of all that, the missing contract stayed in my mind, like an alarm buzzing in the corner. Dad gone meant Damien would get bolder, And if he was already deleting major records before power officially shifted, I knew exactly what was coming next. The day after we buried Micah, I walked back into the office and saw Damien in Dad's chair, feet up, grinning, not mourning, positioning. That's when it really hit me. Whatever happened next wasn't going to be family conflict. It was going to be war, and it was going to get ugly fast. The will reading took place 2 days after the funeral, back at the estate. Micah's office still smelled like cedar polish and old paperwork, the kind of space built to make men feel important. Damien walked in like he already owned the air inside it. He shook the lawyer's hand with this fake grief face, the same one he practiced in the mirror for business meetings. Camilla hovered beside him, straightening his collar, whispering things like, "Remember to breathe," as if he'd been the one holding the family together. I took a seat off to the side. I didn't feel like performing. The lawyer, a tall guy who'd probably dealt with our family more than he wanted to, opened his folder and got right to it. No warm-ups, no emotional speech, just the words none of us could escape. To Damien, he read, clearing his throat, "Your father leaves full ownership of the company, all associated assets, remaining savings, and the vehicle collection." Damien nodded slowly, pretending to absorb the weight of responsibility. His eyes flicked toward me with a little smirk, just long enough to make sure I saw it. The lawyer continued. To Jonathan, he paused like there should have been more there. He leaves this envelope. He handed it to me. Light, thin, a key inside and a folded letter. Camilla raised an eyebrow. Well, that's thoughtful, she said. Symbolic, I suppose. Symbolic of what? I asked. She shrugged. Hard work builds character. Maybe it's time you step out on your own. Damien gave me a look like he was watching a prank unfold exactly how he planned it. He sat taller in Micah's chair, fingertips together like a CEO posing for a magazine. I didn't open the envelope there. I just slipped it into my jacket. The lawyer closed his folder. That concludes it. Camilla had arranged a separate gathering afterward. Less grief, more optics. She stood first. We should head to the reception. People are waiting for us. The community hall was crowded the way funerals always are. Food nobody eats, conversations nobody wants. People who barely knew Micah, suddenly reminiscing about how larger than life he was. Damien moved through the room like he was collecting votes. Camilla followed him, greeting everyone with the same sad smile. I stayed near the back, talking to a few of the older employees who were actually grieving. They asked if I was okay. I gave the standard response. Yeah, handling things. I didn't expect Camilla to suddenly turn toward me, but she did, loud enough to gather attention. You know, Jonathan, she said, it would be nice if you showed a little more appreciation today. A few conversations died out around us. Damien glanced over, but made no move to intervene. Appreciation for what? I asked. For everything your father built, she said. Damien understands the weight of responsibility. You just never really stepped up. People know that. Some clients nearby nodded politely, unsure what they were agreeing to. You're rewriting history in public now? I asked, raising an eyebrow. She ignored the jab. Jonathan never actually worked in leadership, she told a couple standing beside her. He helped with small tasks here and there, but Damien has always carried the real load. Micah wanted him leading the company for a reason. One of our long-term clients, a man I'd bailed out of countless logistics disasters, gave me a confused look. He knew exactly how much work I did, but Camilla wasn't done. Jealousy doesn't look good on you, she added. Especially today of all days. I kept my voice level. If I'm jealous, somebody better tell my face. It's been out of the loop. A couple people snorted before catching themselves. Damien shot them a warning glance. Camilla bristled. You're being disrespectful. No, I said. Just accurate. Her eyes narrowed like I'd slapped her. Damien finally stepped closer, pretending to mediate. Mom, leave it. He's processing everything slowly. That earned him the performance points he wanted. Camilla softened toward him immediately, like he'd saved her from some emotional cliff. I'd had enough. Enjoy the evening, I said, nodding once before walking out. Outside, the air felt clearer. I pulled the envelope from my jacket and opened it by the car. Inside was a small brass key and a letter in Micah's handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I know you were hurt by me and by your brother. If you want answers, use this key and go to the shed behind the estate. Simple. No apology. No explanation, just instructions. I folded it back up. Not today. I had spent too many years doing cleanup work for the family. Whatever Micah left in that shed could wait until I had the energy to face whatever mess he'd hidden there. Inside the hall, I could still hear laughter. Not mourning. Celebration. Damien shaking hands like a new governor. Camilla telling people how strong they were as a family. Grief wasn't the priority. Power was. And now that they had it, they weren't bothering to hide the victory dance. I went back to work the morning after the reception. Not because I expected anything good, but because I wanted to see how fast Damien would try marking his territory. Turns out, immediately. His car was parked in Micah's old spot, right up front. He'd even slapped a temporary CEO placard on the windshield, like a teenager claiming a locker. Inside, the energy was off. People spoke in low voices. A couple employees avoided eye contact altogether. Damien had already sent out a company-wide email announcing a new era. He used phrases like performance overhaul, aggressive expansion, and unlocking hidden potential, which was corporate speak for prepare to suffer. A mandatory staff meeting was called for 9. I walked into the conference room a few minutes early and saw Lena already there. She'd been the operations manager for years. Sharp, no nonsense, and one of the few people who never treated me like background furniture. She gave me a small nod. He's already tearing up the workflow charts, she said quietly. And he hasn't even read them. Sounds about right, I said. When Damien strutted in, he waited until everyone was seated before clearing his throat like he was about to announce national policy. All right, he said, clapping once. We're changing how things run around here. We've been playing too small for too long. Dad meant well, but he held this company back with his old ideas. A few employees stiffened at that. Damien didn't notice or didn't care. We're trimming dead weight, he continued. Streamlining. Increasing revenue by pushing bigger deals, even if they stretch us thin. That's how modern companies grow. I could practically hear Lena grinding her teeth. Then he started taking shots at the staff. Not in a subtle way. Full insult mode. Some of you need to stop cruising, he said. Some of you have been protected because Jonathan liked keeping things comfortable. That ends now. People glanced at me. Damien wanted them to. He paced a bit, pretending to read notes he clearly didn't write. Jonathan is great with busy work, he said, but the company needs leadership, not maintenance. That was the warm-up. Then he went for the headline. So, moving forward, he said, Jonathan will no longer be part of operations. Or the company. He didn't even bother facing me when he said it. Camilla, who had slipped into the room at some point, nodded approvingly, like she'd been waiting for this announcement all her life. You're firing me, I said. Not shocked, just clarifying. Damien finally turned toward me. It's not personal. You just slow things down. We need people who think bigger. You've been holding us back, and Dad knew it. A few employees looked uncomfortable. Lena looked like she wanted to flip the table. I stood, but stayed calm. You wouldn't know what holds a company together if someone taped a label to it. Damien smirked. There it is. The jealousy. Jealous, I said. Of what? Watching you panic every time a real problem shows up? You can't run 5 minutes of operations without calling someone else to fix your mistakes. Camilla stepped forward. Jonathan, stop embarrassing yourself. I ignored her. Damien, you've played pretend long enough. The only reason the business survived half your decisions is because I stayed late fixing what you broke. That got a few hidden nods from the back. Damien's jaw tightened, but he forced a shrug. You're free to believe whatever makes you feel better, but you're done here. I grabbed my things without rushing. If he expected me to storm out, he'd be disappointed. I gave Lena a nod on the way toward the door. She whispered, This place is going to fall apart. Yeah, I said. And fast. I walked out to the parking lot. For a second, I thought that was the end of it, but Damien followed me. He waited until no one else was close before dropping the friendly act. Look, he said, lowering his voice. You need to move on. Don't make trouble. Don't dig into company stuff. Just let me run things. I leaned against my truck. You threaten me in a parking lot? That's a leadership strategy. He forced a smile. I'm saying this for your own good. If you start asking questions, things could end badly. For you. It was vague enough that he could deny it later, but clear enough that he wanted me scared. I wasn't. I opened my door. Go run your new era, Damien. Try not to delete anything important today. His smile cracked for a second. I drove home. The house was quiet, but my head wasn't. I took Micah's letter back out and read it again. The same simple lines. The same key. The same direction to the shed. This time it didn't feel symbolic. It felt intentional. And the anger I'd been keeping on a leash finally sat up and paid attention. I drove to the estate late, long after I knew Camilla and Damien would be gone. The place looked different without Micah's truck in the driveway. Too polished. Too staged. Like the house itself was trying to pretend it hadn't lost the only person who anchored it to reality. I went straight to the shed behind the property. It sat near the tree line, half hidden by overgrown brush. The same shed Micah used for tools he never organized and projects he never finished. The door creaked when I pulled it open. Dust hung in the air, drifting through the beam of my flashlight. Nothing about the place looked important. Old workbenches, rusted saws, jars of screws that probably hadn't been touched in a decade. But the key in my pocket had weight to it. Micah didn't leave me much, but he left me that. At the back of the shed was a small metal box tucked under a tarp. Heavy, dented, locked. The key fit perfectly. The click echoed louder than it should have. Inside the box were stacks of folders, envelopes, and 3 worn journals, with Micah's handwriting all over them. Not sentimental journals. These were work logs, observations, things he didn't want on company servers. I took the top folder and opened it. Financial printouts from 6 years ago, then 5, then 3. Immediately, I saw fake vendor names, companies that didn't exist, addresses that led nowhere, invoices paid out for consulting, material transport, special services. All signed off by Damien. The more I read, the clearer it became. Damien hadn't just cut corners. He had been stealing, quietly, consistently, and confidently. Thousands here, tens of thousands there, spread across unrelated accounts so Micah's books always looked clean enough from a distance. Evan's face earlier made even more sense now. I flipped through another folder and stopped dead. The missing contract, the one that mysteriously vanished from the system, was sitting right in front of me, except it was rewritten under a different vendor name. A shell deal. Same dates, same project, different payout destination. And the signature authorizing the switch? Damien's. There it was. Proof that he wasn't just incompetent, he was deliberate. I opened one of Micah's journals next. His handwriting was rough, like he wrote during late nights when he couldn't sleep. The entries weren't emotional, just factual. Dates, incidents, concerns he never voiced. Damien altered payment schedule again. Vendor questioning numbers. Legal risk increasing. Can't expose this without destroying the business. Jonathan asked about missing invoice. Didn't tell him. He deserves better than this. Cannot confront Damien without triggering fallout. If I cut Damien out, he'll contest the will and drag everything public. Reputation comes first. So Micah had known. For years. He documented everything but acted on nothing. Not because he was protecting Damien. He was protecting the image he spent a lifetime building. The business had become a shrine to him. Too important to stain with a public scandal. And me? I was the collateral damage. I flipped further. If anything happens to me, Jonathan must decide for himself. The truth will force a choice. That line hit harder than anything else in the shed. Not emotional, just blunt, like Micah knew exactly how the future would look. He didn't give me guidance. He didn't give me comfort. He gave me a key to a box full of evidence that could either destroy Damien or bury me if I mishandled it. This wasn't an apology. This was a responsibility. I kept reading until my flashlight dimmed. More shell companies. More fraudulent authorizations. More side deals Damien set up behind Micah's back. A pattern that stretched further than I expected. When I closed the last journal, the shed felt colder. The anger I'd carried for years didn't flare up. It just settled. Solid. Focused. Like a decision had already formed in the background of my mind, and now it finally stepped forward. Micah didn't leave me money. He left me the truth. And truth is a different kind of inheritance. One that demands you do something with it. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of every file, every page, every signature. Organized them into folders. Backed them up the same way I always backed up everything else in that company. I put all the original documents back in the box exactly how I found them. Closed it. Locked it. Slid it back under the tarp. No theatrics. No dramatic exits. Just a quiet decision made in a forgotten shed. By the time I walked out into the night, I wasn't furious anymore. Rage burns out fast. This was something cleaner, sharper. I finally understood. Micah didn't leave me a consolation prize. He left me a weapon, and now I knew exactly how to use it. By the time I left the shed, the decision was already forming. Not emotional, practical. If I moved forward, people would get hurt. Employees with families. Vendors who trusted us. The company name Micah built would collapse under the weight of Damien's stupidity. But letting it go meant accepting that Damien could keep draining the place dry while everyone else paid the price. Either way, the fallout wouldn't be clean. I spent the next morning reviewing the photos I'd taken. Everything lined up exactly the way I expected. Fraud layered over more fraud. Hidden under sloppy accounting tricks Damien thought no one would ever question. I built a chronological folder. Missing invoices, shell deals, vendor complaints, altered signatures, all tied together with Micah's journals. I wasn't rushing, just assembling the truth piece by piece. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It's Mark. Can we meet? Mark had worked in operations since before I was out of high school. Smart, loyal, one of the guys who kept the place from falling apart. I told him to meet me at a small diner off the highway, somewhere nobody connected to the company ever bothered to go. He walked in looking frustrated and tired. The kind of tired you only get when someone above you abuses their authority. They fired me, he said, before he even sat down. Damien pulled me into his office, said I wasn't a culture fit. I nodded. He's cleaning house. Mark shook his head. It wasn't that. I said something during the staff meeting after you left, about how operations ran because of you. He didn't like that. Figures. He reached into his jacket and slid a small envelope across the table. I think you'll want this. Damien made me adjust some of the records 6 months ago. I saved the originals. Didn't know why at the time. Now I do. Inside were 2 documents. An earlier version of the fake vendor contract and a payment reroute request Damien had signed. It was the missing link between the altered invoices and the shell deal I'd found in the shed. This ties everything together, I said. Mark exhaled. Yeah, thought so. I'm done with that place. But if you're doing something, I'm not asking details. Just do it right. I nodded once. I will. He left without another word. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Camilla's name lit up the screen. I considered ignoring it, but picked up anyway. Her voice was sharp from the start. Jonathan, whatever you're doing needs to stop. Good morning to you too, I said. You think I don't hear things? Employees talk? Evan mentioned you've been asking for old records. That bothers you? I asked. Records? It bothers me that you're trying to sabotage your brother. This is a delicate time. Damien needs support, not your bitterness. Support? I said. He's been running the company like a crash course in how to get audited. She hissed under her breath. If you push this, you're out of the family. Completely. No more calls, no more responsibilities. Nothing. That threat would work better, I said, if it didn't sound like a reward. She hung up. An hour later, Damien followed up with a string of texts, half mocking, half hostile. Heard you're digging again? You really can't move on, huh? Careful. People get curious for the wrong reasons. I didn't answer any of them. Silence rattles men like Damien more than arguing ever could. Instead, I gathered everything. Photos of Micah's journals, the backup files, Mark's documents, the photo logs, and scheduled a quiet meeting with a lawyer outside town. Just a small office above a strip mall, nothing impressive. That's what I wanted. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Porter, flipped through each file slowly. No dramatic reactions, no shocked expression, just steady understanding. This is extensive, she finally said, and damning. If even half of this is accurate, the company's been committing fraud for years. All of it is accurate, I said. She nodded. Then you have enough to trigger multiple investigations. Financial crimes, contract violations, vendor fraud, possibly tax issues. Once this starts, it won't stop until everything is examined. I'm aware. She sat back. You're not doing this for personal gain. No. Good, she said. Because you won't get any. That's fine. Then I'll show you how to do this anonymously. We spent the next hour structuring the report, labeling evidence, redacting anything unnecessary. No emotional statements, no accusations. Just facts placed exactly where the division liked them. When I left her office, the report had already been submitted. By the next morning, Evan reached out. If you need documentation, he said quietly, I'm ready. He sounded calmer than I expected. Maybe he'd been waiting for someone to take action. Meanwhile, Lena texted me that she and a few others were quietly preparing exit routes for staff. People feel the shift, she wrote. The smart ones want out before the storm hits. She wasn't wrong. Damien was arrogant, not subtle. Anyone paying attention could feel the walls tightening. 48 hours later, the first notice arrived. An official request for information from the State Commercial Compliance Division. A standard form. Nothing dramatic on its own, but it carried weight. The kind of weight that made executives sweat through their suits. Damien's reaction would tell me everything. War had officially started. The first audit request hit the company like a quiet warning shot. No alarms, no flashing lights. Just a formal notice asking for documentation Damien didn't have. He tried brushing it off as routine compliance. But within days, more requests followed. Deeper ones. Specific ones. Ones that targeted exactly the areas he doctored. Then the bank froze the accounts. Not the division. The bank. Too many vendor payments had been rerouted, split, relabeled, and pushed through unfamiliar recipients. The bank's compliance team saw the pattern before Damien did. Once they flagged it, the freeze hit instantly. Automatic, mechanical, and impossible to talk your way out of. Payroll bounced the next morning. Panic spread fast. I watched the unraveling from a distance. Lena kept me updated. 3 more employees quit today, she texted. 2 of them have been here longer than Damien's been pretending to work. Camilla, on the other hand, was completely unhinged. Word around town was she kept telling people the company was under attack by jealous competitors. She hinted at sabotage, corporate espionage, anything except the truth, that her golden son had been siphoning money for years. Meanwhile, Damien spiraled. He sent out mass emails full of motivational cliches and vague warnings. He held impromptu meetings where he talked in circles about unity and loyalty. Employees stopped showing up for them. Some stopped showing up entirely. 2 weeks into the audits, I decided to drive to the building once, just to see it with my own eyes. I didn't announce myself. I walked through the front doors like I still belonged there. No one had ever deactivated my badge. Damien liked dramatic moves, not administrative ones. The lobby felt hollow. Half the chairs were empty, and the receptionist desk didn't even have a receptionist. Papers were stacked in messy piles, as if someone left in a hurry and didn't care about the cleanup. I walked down the main hallway. Office after office sat abandoned. Desks cleared, computers missing, nameplates gone. A company that used to buzz with movement now felt like the last day of school, except nobody was celebrating. When I reached the operations wing, I found Lena boxing up her last few things. "He's still pretending this is temporary?" I asked. She didn't even look surprised to see me. "Worse," she said. "He's telling everyone the audits are a political stunt. He thinks if he talks confidently enough, the compliance will just go away." I raised an eyebrow. "That's his plan?" "That, and blaming you," she said. "Every chance he gets." "Predictable." She taped her last box shut. "This place is done, Jonathan. The employees know. The vendors know. Damien's the only one still living in Fantasyland." I nodded toward the empty hallway. "He built his kingdom on sand." "Yeah," she said. "And now the tide's here." I left her to finish packing. I didn't bother checking Damien's office. I didn't need to. I already knew he'd be in there pretending everything was fine, rehearsing speeches, convincing himself he was still in control. A few days later, Lena sent me a short message. "Board call today. You'll want to hear this." I wasn't on the board, obviously, but she knew someone who still had access to internal audio feeds. Someone fed up enough to leak what mattered. I sat in my truck with my phone plugged into the speaker as the call connected. Damien started calm. Too calm. "Everything is being handled," he said. "We're cooperating fully." An older board member cut him off. "Damien, half our clients have paused their contracts. Vendors are refusing deliveries. What exactly is being handled?" Damien ignored the question. "The division is overreacting. They're targeting us unfairly. It's political." Another voice jumped in. "Political? Damien, they asked for receipts. You didn't provide them." Silence hit the call for a moment. Then Damien snapped. "We are being sabotaged," he shouted. "Someone is feeding them lies. Someone inside this company wants to see us fall." A board member asked, "And who would that be?" Damien didn't hesitate. "Jonathan." I leaned back in my seat. There it was, the meltdown. "He's bitter," Damien continued. "He's jealous. He's been trying to undermine me for years. He must have hacked something or planted something, because none of this makes sense unless he's behind it." One of the investors spoke coldly. "Damien, the altered records have your signature." "That's forged," Damien yelled. "Why don't any of you understand? I'm the only one fighting for this company while all of you sit there judging." "Lower your voice," someone said. Damien didn't. He kept ranting about traders, about compliance, about how everyone was turning on him. His voice cracked more than once. At one point, he slammed something. The sound echoed through the call. Then came the words that sealed his fate. "I don't care what the division wants. They can shut the whole place down for all I care. This company is nothing without me." The line went dead. Lena texted 30 seconds later. Board meetings were recorded for minutes. After Damien exploded, one of the board members forwarded the audio to the company's attorney. From there, it was only a matter of time before investigators heard it. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just stared at the dashboard and let the reality settle. Damien had finally done what no audit, no lawsuit, no regulator could do. He proved he wasn't fit to run the company. Within the next 48 hours, the compliance escalated the case. They requested additional documents. They placed Damien under formal investigation. Vendors began terminating contracts. 2 clients announced they were pursuing legal action. I didn't answer any calls, didn't respond to any messages. Silence was my only involvement now. The empire Micah built was collapsing in slow motion, but not because of me, because Damien had pulled out every support beam himself. The house felt different when I pulled into the driveway. Lights on in every room, curtains pulled, cars parked crooked, like people ran inside without thinking. It reminded me of a storm shelter right before the tornado hits. Everyone panicked, everyone pretending they're safe. I didn't come to gloat. I came because Camilla left 4 voicemails in a row, each one sharper than the last. The final one said, "Get here now. We need to talk as a family." Family. Interesting choice of word. When I walked in, Camilla was already in the foyer, pacing like she'd worn a groove into the hardwood. Damien stood behind her, face red, jaw set, eyes wild. He looked nothing like the polished salesman he pretended to be. He looked cornered. The moment she saw me, Camilla pointed. "You did this!" she snapped. "You destroyed everything Micah built." I closed the door behind me. "Good evening to you too." "This isn't a joke!" she shouted, stepping closer. "Investigators are tearing apart this family. Vendors are suing. The board wants Damien removed. And it all started right after you were fired." Damien threw his hands up. "Of course it was him. Who else would stab us in the back like that? He's always wanted to take me down." I looked at him. "You did that part yourself." He lunged forward like he was going to shove me, but Camilla blocked him with one arm, never breaking eye contact with me. "You're going to fix this," she said. "You're going to tell those people whatever lies you told them. You're going to retract it, or apologize, or whatever it takes." I raised an eyebrow. "You think I have that kind of influence?" "You must," she shouted. "Micah always said you were dangerous if you didn't stay in your place. He warned us about this. He wanted you kept away from the business for a reason." That one actually made me laugh. "He said that?" "Yes," she said firmly. "He told me Jonathan should never be in leadership. He said you'd ruin us." I let her finish. Then I shook my head slowly. "Interesting," I said, "because I read his journals. Every page. Micah never said anything like that. In fact, he said the opposite." She blinked. "Journals?" "Yeah," I said. "The ones he hid in the shed. The ones where he documented every stunt Damien pulled, every altered payment, every shell company, every lie. He didn't keep me away to protect the business from me. He kept quiet because he was trying to protect the business from Damien." Damien stepped forward again, fists tight. "You're lying. He would never write that." "He wrote plenty," I said. "You just never looked." Camilla's face cracked. Not sadness, panic. Real panic. "Micah wouldn't lie to me," she said weakly. "No," I replied. "You lied to yourself. You rewrote everything to fit the fairy tale where Damien is the heir and I'm the problem. But the truth doesn't care how pretty your version sounds." The air went heavy. Damien started pacing, muttering to himself. "You sabotaged me," he said. "You ruined everything. You couldn't just accept the will. You had to dig. You had to find something to justify being a failure." "There it is," I said. "The greatest hits album." He spun around. "I should have fired you years ago." "I did your job for years," I replied. "You'd need GPS and a flashlight to find the spot where responsibility starts." He charged toward me, but Camilla grabbed him this time. Both hands, full force. "Stop!" she screamed. "Stop it! He wants us to fall apart." I shook my head. "You were already falling apart. I just stopped trying to hold the pieces together." "You're going to fix this!" Camilla yelled again, voice cracking. "You will fix this! You owe this family." "I owe nothing," I said. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The room went silent. For a few seconds, none of them spoke. You could hear the house settling, the kind of noise you only notice when everyone stops breathing. Damien pointed at me. "They're investigating me. Do you understand what that means? My accounts are frozen. My reputation, my entire future is on the line." "You signed your future away," I said. "Every document had your name." "You admit it then?" Camilla shrieked. "Yeah," I said. "I brought it forward." Camilla recoiled like the words burned. Damien's face tightened. I didn't forge your signatures," I said. "I didn't create your shell vendors. I didn't reroute your payments. I didn't make you steal." I stepped closer, voice quiet. "I just stopped protecting you from consequences." Damien swallowed hard, like he was realizing there was no angle left to play. "So what now?" he asked. "Now," I said. "I understand exactly how this family works." I turned around, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. I packed my truck that night with whatever mattered: clothes, tools, my files, my backup drives. No farewell letters, no explanations, Just a clean departure. By sunrise, I was on the highway heading out of town. New place, new start, no Micah's shadow hovering over every decision I made. In the months that followed, everything played out exactly the way the documents predicted. Damien never recovered. The investigation expanded, then deepened, then hardened into formal charges. Fraud, misappropriation, falsified records, stacked neatly in legal terms he couldn't charm or threaten his way out of. The investors he used to brag to wouldn't return his calls. The board removed him. Vendors blacklisted him. Friends disappeared as fast as the money he once funneled into his pockets. Camilla doubled down at first, swearing Damien was innocent, swearing the compliance were corrupt, swearing the whole town was conspiring against her family. Eventually, even she couldn't outrun the paperwork. She stopped showing her face in public. Last I heard, she sold the estate and moved to a place where nobody knew our last name. The business Micah built was dissolved, broken down piece by piece. Some employees found better jobs, thanks to Lena pushing them out early. Evan testified quietly in exchange for immunity, and finally slept 8 hours a night for the first time in years. As for me, I didn't go back. Not to fix anything, not to tell my side, not to watch the rubble. I built something new somewhere else, on my own terms this time. Smaller than Micah's empire, maybe, but clean, stable, mine. People say time heals everything, but time only heals what you stop touching. I left that family behind, and with distance came clarity. Some legacies aren't meant to be inherited. Some empires are better off erased, and some endings are the only way anything real can begin. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.